Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week I wanted to talk about the idea of starving your artist, which is more of a turn of phrase than anything else, but I really liked it. So I got this idea from reading Stephen King's book called On Writing, where he not only kind of autobiographically talks about his life, but he details his process for work. And regardless of what you feel about Stephen King, either as a person or an artist, you can't argue that he's prolific and successful. He's made a lot of books and he's made a lot of money. And I think that that is a good advice to take from him there. And one of the things that he mentioned when it comes to the way that he works is that he writes a specific amount of words every day when he's writing. Like, obviously when he's editing or whatever, that's different. But when he is writing a book, he sits down and he writes, I think it's 10,000 words. It might be 5,000. He writes a specific amount of words every day, and then he stops. He stops writing. So he says that could take anywhere from 2 hours to 8 hours, depending on his creative flow that day. And when he's done, he's done. He doesn't work on it anymore. He still thinks about it, but he doesn't work on it anymore. And that's kind of where the idea of starving your artist comes from. Because when you stop like that, when you stop so abruptly, you still have all of the ideas. You still have all of the things that you wanted to express in your head, but you don't have the way of getting that out into the world anymore, into the project file or on the paper. And those kind of sit and stew in your head, and you think about them and you turn them over and you work on refining them. And if you had just kind of barfed it all out on the page, it would be out there and done. But if you kind of work on it and stop halfway through, you still have all of those ideas in your head, and they keep rolling around, and they work to inspire you when you start again tomorrow to do the process again. And I really like this idea, and I can kind of feel how it works through the 2-hour track challenge, because when that time's up, there's always things that I wish I could have done, but I just didn't have time to do. And I think that it has a lot of the same properties, even though most of the time I tend to go a little bit over on the 2-hour track challenge because I want to have a finished product. I'm not planning on going back to it the same way, but I can think about all of the things that I wanted to do and all of the things that I meant to do on the song and just didn't have time. And I can retain all of that and bring it into the next project that I work on. And I think that's really the crux of the whole thing, where it allows you to sit and allows you to ruminate on these ideas and maybe refine them a little bit more than you otherwise would have, simply because you didn't really have the time before to think about, why this is this way and why you wanted to do something a particular way. It gives you the opportunity to sit and think about that kind of stuff, and I think that's really important. But that's pretty much it. I really like this idea. I really highly recommend reading On Writing by Stephen King. Like I said, the first half of the book is him essentially just explaining his life story. And then the second half is him going pretty deep into how he approaches and solves creative problems. And that there's so much really amazing information inside of that book. I've read it a couple times, and I'll probably read it again. It's one of those things where I read like once every 2 or 3 years just to get some inspiration. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Be remarkable.